Cropin, reimagining agriculture with data.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all who are attending this event from all over the world. And after a successful conference and exhibition of yesterday, now I'm happy to welcome you all to the second day of Africa Agri Expo Conference. And I am again very delighted to welcome the panelists of our first session of today. I would like to take the name of all panelists here. Christian Mavindu from Cropin, Dr. Eric Zillman from Planet. We have Wabena Frimpong from Ignitia. We have Ayla from Alia Nanosatellites. We have Daniel from Isoko, and the last for the panelist of the session is Henk from Smart Center Group. Welcome all the panelists. So now, when we have officially begin with our sessions for today, I would now like to call Kristen Mavindu, who is the head of sales Africa, Middle East, and Latin from Cropin, who would talk about boosting agriculture in Africa, enabling data-driven farming using next-gen technologies. Kristen, the stage is yours now, please.
Thank you, Afshin. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, we can hear you well.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you for having me. Thank you to TAB Group for putting this together. And it's my pleasure to present to you about how we can use technology to boost agriculture in Africa, enabling data-driven farming using next generation technology. So I'll quickly take you through a presentation of basically what who Cropin is and what Cropin does. So I'll just, on a very high level, on a global presence, on a scale, what we've done as Cropin, some of the customers we're working with, and some of the impact that we've made globally, working with over 2.14 million farmers, having collected data sets for over 388 crops. We have over $6.1 million acres digitized, and we have presence across over 56 countries and over 225 customers globally. So, Cropin, I just give a high-level introduction of who Cropin is. So, Cropin is an artificial intelligence data-led agtech company that empowers agribusinesses and to be able to become data-driven and drive their digital strategy across the entire the farming value chain. So what we want to take farmers is to move them from just doing the normal agrarian agriculture to really adopting technology and adopting technology in their farming practices. So some of the reason that Cropin exists and was actually formed over 11 years ago is to address some of the challenges in the agri ecosystem. Some of them, which we all know, things like climate change, pest infestation and diseases, which seem to be like changing every other day. We have a lot of operational inefficiencies when it comes to farming. There's non-availability of finance to farmers. It's one of the biggest challenges, not just in Africa, but across the globe. Getting farmers getting access to financing from the banks because, most of these farmers don't have any records that the banks can refer to and they can reference to that before they can give them any loan. Globally, traceability is becoming a key issue. So there's no traceability. We don't know as a consumers of food. We don't know where how this food has been produced, what chemicals have been applied on it, soil degradation, abuse of fertilizers and pesticides. There's very low financial security for farmers. They're very exposed. And again, there's no predictability of yield. So when For example, at a country level, we don't know, as a government, they don't know how many farmers they have in their country, what is their acreage, what crops they are growing, and so they can't be able to plan accordingly because they don't know what yield is going to be harvested from the fields. And even, of course, for the like the agro processors and all that, they don't know what raw materials to plan for because they have no visibility. So again, sustainability is becoming a big challenge. Deficiencies in the food production and monitoring process, and also non-compliance with the current global practices. We have certain bodies who give and issue certain certifications, and the producers have to conform to those. So in a nutshell, those are some of the challenges that cropping looks at addressing, and basically providing the farmers and the people in the farming value chain with data and insights for them to be able first to conform with certain set standards, to be able to address some of those challenges and to ensure that there is a sustainable production of crops, and of course make sure that we address issues like food security. So as cropping, like I mentioned, been around for about 11 years, and we pioneered in the agri-tech sector, and always coming up with new innovative solutions. And we have best-in-class customer service. We have a global network and presence, and working with some of the leading. We have like global partners that we work with, be able to integrate with, like people who, provide things like satellite imaging for agriculture, things like drones. And we have, we focus on the different value chains across the agri value chain. So any person who is in the agricultural value chain, so, from the agri input company, production companies, to financial institutions who provide financing to farmers or to people in the agri sector, crop insurance providers, farming companies, the processors, seed production companies, government and advisory. So we basically work with all the players across that entire value chain. And our main goal is to make sure that we provide data insights, we give the real-time data to the different players in that ecosystem, so that they can be able to make informed decisions on how they can be able to, whatever role they play within the agricultural sector. So we're into empowering agribusiness to become data-driven using, of course, our platforms. So we help them to structure their farm data. They're able to collect all the data at the farm level, and they can be able to, from there, apply certain algorithms and parameters just for them to be able to get the kind of information and data they're looking at. So I'll probably, just take you through, some of the players that we have and the different players in that value chain and what they get out of using our system. So, for example, for the agri-input companies, they're able to forecast their production. For example, for financial lending institutions, they're able to assess and risk management for the farmers. Crop insurance providers are able to know what the risk they get from covering those farmers, and they're able to get insights on, for example, if this farmer has 100 acres of X crop, what is, and based on prevailing weather conditions, they can be able to predict their yield, and based on that, they can be able to cover insurance for them. So farming companies, of course, they need precision in terms of output on the predictability. For seed production companies, quality very key for them, and traceability, of course. Government and advisories, they want to increase farm productivity and sustainability. And for commodity trading companies, for traders, they're into hedging, and they want to get confidence based on the prevailing data and information that they have. So if you look at agriculture right now, when we talk about data, so what are we providing as a cropping? So we are providing a functionality, real technology that is really usable and can be able to help people with the right decision making, reliability, visibility into the operations and into the entire value chain, configurability, very customizable solutions that you can be able to work with the farmers and the different players in that value chain. connectability, integrability. So because, agri-tech or technology is very wide, and there's some things that we don't cover. For example, we don't provide, so we're able to integrate with other third-party vendors who now provide other specific solutions still within that ecosystem. And of course, predictability, which is what we're enabling through the use of our system. So we have our flagship product, which is called Smart Farm, which has now progressed to the second version, which is a Smart Farm Plus, which is your one-stop integratable farm management platform for efficiency, predictability, and sustainability. So I'll just so that's a mobile phone, and that is the app on the phone, and from there you can be able to do all the functions about managing your farm. You have you can be able to integrate with things like drones, other IoT devices, satellite data, and so it consumes that data and can be able to give you the kind of whether dashboards or reports or whatever information that you are looking for. You can be able to do your farm resource and contractor supervision, all just from your phone. It's of course gives you one single source of truth, because all the data that is collected is able to be consumed in that application, and you can be able to generate the kind of reports and the kind of dashboards for reporting purposes or for decision-making purposes. And of course, very key, we're able to give robust security and data protection. So we actually don't have any access to any customer data. So as a customer, you own your data. So at least we give you that assurance. So this from like just a pictorial representation of how the application will look like on a laptop. So especially for people who are now like sitting in the office, or if you're like a farm manager or a senior person and you want to have like visibility of what is happening. So you can be able to do things like cost analysis and payments. You can be able to geotag your farm, so you know which farm is where. You have all the details about that farm. You can be able to do things like resources and inventory management. You can be able to have like alerts for whatever activity scheduling and whatever needs to happen at the farm level. You can configure alerts and all that. Again, integrate with satellites and weather data. You can be able to profile your farmers. So for example, if you work with outgrowers or you run a program where you have different farmers, so you can be able to get access to all the different farmers that you have. And of course, it will enable you adhere to compliance and certification like global GAP, and of course, things like yield predictability, which is very key for planning purposes. So I'll just so what does it mean? What does it deliver for the different players within that ecosystem? So for example, for farmers, they're able to get real-time actionable insights, which of course, once they action, they'll be able to maximize their yield in their farms. For the field users, these are people like, extension officers. They can be able to do their data collection from the ground. From a supervisor or managerial position, you can be able to have visibility on all the field data, again, which will enable you make the right decisions for your organization to enhance productivity. And now at a higher level, you can be able to get insights for more informed decision making, because you have all the data that is needed for you to be able to make the right decisions when it comes to your farming or your agriculture activities. So this is just a pictorial representation of how basically the entire ecosystem, from the farm management, supply chain management after you harvest, and it's going into the processing, and of course even harvesting itself, when it comes to scheduling of the activities and all that. And of course, once you make sure that yes, you've used the system, you've used the technology to maximize your harvest or your production, then what? Market linkage. So you're able to again now link the farmers now to the global value chain, to the global marketplaces. So that is on a very high level one of our systems, and I'll just quickly take you through one of the other system, which is called Root Trace, which is about enabling traceability through the entire value chain. So for example, when it comes to the food that you are eating, you can actually be able to generate a QR code. And if I'm a user, or rather if I'm a customer and I go to the supermarket, for example, or to the local store, I can actually be able to scan packet or the packaging of whatever product that I want to buy, and I can be able to get information about, where that food has been grown, which area, which locality, which type of food it was grown. And so basically I can get visibility about all the information about that crop. Then I can be able to make a decision on whether to buy it or not, because now we are becoming very health conscious. I want to be sure that we know what we are eating, and we can actually be able to track it where it was grown. So that is one of the solutions that we provide to our customers who are into that field. So actually, this is how the QR code looks like, and once you scan it, on the right you can see a table there. It will be able to display all that data. So of course, you can be able to configure what kind of data you want to see in the QR code. Then of course, things like climate smart. We're enabling climate smart agriculture, where we're able to provide local weather advisory services, and we can be able to give things like early warning advisory to the farmers. So, what is the right time to do your sowing based on the prevailing weather conditions? What is the right input usage for fertilizers and any other inputs? For example, you can be able to get alerts and configure things like smart irrigation scheduling and pest and disease prediction and advisory and all that, because one of the challenges that farmers have is not having the right data at the right time. So what we are coming in as cropping is now to be able to enable farmers to access that information at the right time so that they can be able to action it. And of course that in return will make sure that they maximize their productivity and their harvest. So the next solution that we also have, which is quite a very useful tool to a lot of people in the agri value chain, is it's called Smart Risk. So Smart Risk is we actually be able to do things like smart sensing, and you can use satellite data to predict certain things. So for example, when you can be able to get and gather data from a farm level and all the way up to country level and even continental level. And for example, for contract farming companies and trading companies, they need to have insights and data about the farmers that they work with. So they need aggregated insights into these farms. They will need to monitor the crops throughout the crop life cycle, and of course, at the end, they want to be able to predict how much yield are they going to get from those different farmers. For example, when it comes to banks and insurance, how do they manage their risk, and how do they know how to underwrite and what a loan a farmer qualifies for example? So again, use that data to be able to profile the farmers, know what they're growing, what farm is, where their farms are, what is their previous yield, for example, and based on that data, they can be able to at least use a scientific method that they can say, okay, for this farmer, they qualify for X amount of loan. And of course, when it comes to covering the crops, they know, for example, these are the expected yield. So based on that and prevailing market prices right now, how much they can be able to insure those crops for. And of course, it will also help with the climate smart advisory using one of our modules called Smart Sense. So basically, what we are saying is we're empowering farmers. We are strengthening that the agricultural value chain, digitally, because we're able to give the farmers and all the different players within that value chain the data and the insights that they need for them to be able to make the right decisions. And of course, at the end of the day, because they're using scientific methods to make decisions, that will definitely boost their productivity and the yields that we expect to get from the farmers. So, these are some of the customers that we've been working with globally, people like Bayer, BSF, Syngenta, Heineken, GIZ, East and West Seeds, across different regions across the globe. And of course, we have very versatile API integrations. Like I mentioned earlier, we also have other complementing solutions, whether it's data coming from like the farm equipment or coming from satellite images or from drones or from any other IoT devices. So we're able to integrate and pull or push data into other platforms as well. So we give a lot of flexibility when it comes to integration with other players or other systems that are also in that agricultural value chain as well. And our mission as Cropping is actually to be able to serve and digitize over 20 million farmers by next year, by the year 2022. And so far, so good. I think we're on the right track. We're doing quite a lot, across the globe. So, for example, we have just signed up a program where we are digitizing over 3 million farmers across Africa, and that is just with one customer. And a lot is also happening in other regions like India, Southeast East Asia, and also in Latin America as well. And so that is us as Cropping. That is what we do. And I'm done with my presentation. So thank you so much for your time. And I would now give it to, I don't know whether it's a Q&A right now or later, or now we hand it over to the next presenter. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christian, for a very great presentation. I am sure that the audience were benefited by listening to this. And if there are questions from the audience, they are free to please put those questions in the Q&A bar, which is on the right side of the screens. We will, if we have the time for the question answers towards the end when the speakers are done with their presentations, we will definitely put up those questions. So now next in line, I would like to invite Dr. Eric Zillman, who is the pre-sales engineer for Planet. He is going to present on the next level of precision agriculture, which is reliable field insights with high cadence monitoring from the Planet satellite data. Dr. Eric, it's your turn now. The stage is yours.
Hello, I hope you can see my slides. Hello and welcome to all of you. Glad to have you here today and on the second day of this Africa Agri Expo. So first I want to thank the organizers of the event for inviting Planet to talk about our capabilities of providing high spatial temporal insights into crop growth and how this data can help to unlock Africa's agricultural potential and enable the African agribusiness to grow. So my name is Dr. Eric Zillman, and I'm working as a pre-sales engineer and Earth observation specialist for agriculture at Planet. So in the last 40 years, we saw different technological innovations helping increase the productivity and profitability of agricultural production. And now, we are entering a new era in agriculture, the era of data-driven digital agriculture. The continuously growing global population puts more pressure on our food systems and increases the needs for higher yields. And Africa is playing an important role to meet this ever-growing demand for food, since it is half of the world's uncultivated fertile arable land. Getting more food out of the ground, agricultural production must become more efficient and sustainable. Digital agriculture will definitely help to unlock this huge untapped agricultural potential of Africa by providing detailed insights and analytic solutions to support growers making better informed management decisions in order to increase both profitability and output while optimizing inputs. And it's clear that digital agriculture will falter if it doesn't drive profitability and adoption in the field. Reliable data and accurate data is needed to build reliable solutions on top of it and to drive true insights for the growers. And a major portion of this agricultural analytics segment is basically driven by remote sensing imagery. And what we have seen so far is that digital transformation of agriculture has been inhibited by a lack of reliable and adequate satellite imagery. Image collection was often too infrequent, the spatial resolution of the imagery too coarse, and the geographical coverage of suitable data limited in order to build reliable services that scale. And moreover, often the business models and data access provided by the imagery providers was too complicated and expensive. And even public data sets such from Sentinel or Landsat aren't without costs. Implementing storage and processing pipelines require also a significant investment of capital and time. So that means the success of digital agriculture depends to a large extent on the availability of the right data at the right time. When it comes to monitoring the crop health, temporally frequent information across the season is crucial to potentially detect any growth anomalies timely. a data source that provides enough spatial detail to show variability within the field, as well as to assess management activities on smallholder farms is required. Temporal and spatial data consistency is very important to derive analytic results you can rely on. And within agriculture, that means it's vital that what's being measured in a time series of data is related to real changes happening in the field and not to any shifts between different sensors. And last, the solution needs to be cost effective with a return on investment to make this technology and platform a worthwhile investment. And we at Planet have built a satellite constellation that is capable of serving the agricultural business with the right data to power innovative digital agricultural solutions and services. And our mission is to image the whole world every day, making change visible, accessible, and actionable. Let me quickly tell you how we do this. So here is one of our Planet's nano satellites, so the so-called DAF. It's about the size of a shoebox of 10 by 10 by 30 centimeters. And we build all of our satellites in-house, and we are constantly innovating and incorporating the latest technology into these small satellites. All these satellites are capable of capturing spectral reflectance in the visual and the near-infrared part of the electromagnetic spectrum at 3-meter spatial resolution. And our most recent sensor provides additional spectral bands in the green, yellow, and red edge portion of the spectrum, which will enable customers to do more advanced analytics and gain even more insights into crop health and crop vitality. And additionally to this constellation, we have a second constellation of 21 SkySat satellites, which are capable of multispectral imaging at 65 centimeter ground sampling distance, allowing us to generate an image product with 50 centimeter pixel resolution. And this imagery is providing very detailed insights on what is going on in the field. And here is a quick video. So we have launched hundreds of these nano satellites to create a constellation operating like a line scanner of the Earth rotating underneath. And this always-on system is capturing images every day on Earth almost every day. And all these satellites are operating on a sun-synchronous orbit with relatively fixed acquisition times per day. And 15 of our SkySat satellites are operating on this sun-synchronous orbit as well, and the additional 6 on a more inclined equatorial orbital plane. And for those 6, the acquisition time varies from day to day, but this is allowing us to capture individual locations on Earth multiple times a day. And in contrast to the DAF constellation, the SkySat constellation is a traditional tasking system, which means we start imaging only when we have received an order from our client. And here you see the main components and features of Planet's monitoring solution for agriculture. Our satellite constellation collects imagery over the entire landmass of the globe on almost daily basis, as I said already. And you do not need to place any tasking order and wait days for delivery. This saves you time and effort, and the imagery is available when you need it. And almost daily monitoring at 3-meter spatial resolution ensures an up-to-date field level overview of your operations, allowing you to detect and respond to changes in crops as they occur. And all data collected is published in our cloud-based platform, latest within 24 hours after collection. And this means you can quickly explore and preview all our imagery through our web user interface or by using our APIs to pull imagery directly into the tools and workflows you are using. And so why high cadence matters. This slide shows the availability of almost cloud-free imagery within the year 2019 over in location in Mozambique, comparing the availability of Planet imagery, shown in turquoise in the graphic on the right, whereas the satellite imagery collected from Sentinel-2, shown in the dark gray. And the result of the visual assessment revealed that Planet published 3 times more imagery than Sentinel across the entire year. And what's even more important is that Planet was able to capture at least one almost cloud-free image every month, even during the rainy season, whereas not a single almost cloud-free image could be captured by Sentinel-2 over 3 consecutive months. And for farmers, this missing information during the growing season means they are acting on an incomplete picture. And why spatial resolution matters becomes pretty obvious when you are looking at these three images captured over a coffee plantation in Tanzania by different sensors providing different spatial resolution. On the left-hand side, you see an image captured by Sentinel-2 with 10-meter spatial resolution. And here types of ground features like vegetation, roads, and human-made structures are distinguishable, but you cannot clearly identify any variation within vegetation canopy. In the 3-meter planet scope image shown in the middle, smaller objects are starting to be evident. Smaller trees and bushes are visible and variability within the crop canopy can be detected. And on the right side, you are seeing the sub-meter resolution SkySat imagery of the same location. And here individual coffee plants can be identified and counted. Houses and even small sheds can be identified. So around crop production, satellite imagery is basically beneficial for supporting various crop management decisions and activities throughout the entire crop cycle. At the beginning of the season, delineating management zones based on historical in-field variation of crop productivity is an essential first step in planning the seeding density and the application of inputs. And frequent crop monitoring across the growing season enables farmers and advisors to monitor crop growth dynamics and spot vitality issues timely in order to quickly guide farmers to affected areas within the field, making field diagnostic much more efficient. And this helps making better informed management decisions as conditions change on the ground due to factors like weather, nutrient supply, pests, and diseases. And at the end of the season, knowledge about the crop senescence level of different fields helps to better manage harvest operations. A large number of agriculture companies and agtech startups around the world are using Planet data already today to build digital solutions on top of our data in order to serve various agricultural applications such as irrigation management and variable rate fertilization and plant protection, helping farmers making better informed management decisions. And on the following slides, I just want to show you a few examples. And the first use case is basically showing how up-to-date satellite imagery can quickly help to improve the efficiency of irrigation systems. In this image, the fields are depicted in a color infrared, with bright red indicating vital vegetation and dark red or grayish color tones indicating fields with low amount of or almost no vegetation. And you can clearly see some anomalies within the fields with characteristic pattern with which are indicating specific issues with the irrigation system. And the color-coded vegetation index allows to accentuate these areas in the field affected by various sprinkler issues, providing actionable insights helping farm managers to fix issues immediately. And unnoticed irrigation system issues such as blocked nozzles or suboptimal water pressure or start-stop issues can cause a significant yield loss at the end. The next example is demonstrating the early season crop variability mapping in maize, which is paramount for farm managers to being able to apply pesticides variably. And by mid of November, the maize fields in this area in South Africa are barely covered with vegetation since the crop has been planted recently. And this is also reflected in the corresponding map of the estimated fractional ground cover calculated from Planet's imagery using the near-infrared and the red information. And as expected, the fractional ground cover of all the fields at this point in time is very low, and it varies between 10 and 30%. And 3 weeks later, the two highlighted fields in the center, for instance, have reached already the vegetative growth stage V5, at which the preventive fungicide application usually has to take place. And the up-to-date ground cover map of these two fields indicates a significant increase of biomass and provides spatial information on corn development status, which is required to enable farmers to apply the right amount of pesticides at the right place in order to secure their yields. And the third use case is addressing how satellite imagery can be transformed into variable rate nitrogen prescription maps. And yeah, knowing the relative canopy chlorophyll content of fields can help farmers to optimize field management and increase productivity by applying variable rate fertilizer. So Planet's high cadence satellite imagery increases the chance of having an imagery when it's needed and provides the spectral information required to map spatial variations in the relative chlorophyll content. So the color-coded map on this slide, is derived from a vegetation index that has been proven to be correlated to the chlorophyll content using the combination of the red and the red edge spectral information. So red color in this case indicates lower chlorophyll content and green a higher chlorophyll content. And as you can see, depending on climatic conditions, soil properties, and farm management practices, the chlorophyll content often varies significantly within individual fields. And in order to derive a variable rate nitrogen prescription map, classes of relative chlorophyll content have to be calibrated to the current chlorophyll status in the field. So leaf chlorophyll meter readings obtained at a few selected locations within the field can serve as a reference to establish calibration functions to translate the relative map values into absolute chlorophyll values. And this subsequently, these values can be used to generate accurate nitrogen prescription maps, depending on the real needs of the plant to reach the site-specific production goals. Basically with this, we have reached almost the end of my talk, and I want to summarize the value of appropriate satellite imagery for a growing African agribusiness. So fact is, that there is a huge potential to increase Africa's agriculture potential through production through data-driven digital agriculture. So the digital transformation process can be accelerated by leveraging new technology and appropriate image data in order to build reliable agricultural services. And in order to build services able to support smallholder farmers in a highly diverse and small structured agricultural cropping system, a reliable image data source is required that is featuring the combination of high spatial and high temporal resolution. And Planet provides the right imagery to provide to build innovative digital services on top of it, and helping to improve farmers' access to knowledge, technology, finance, and markets. The main four drivers helping to realize the growth of agricultural productivity. And we at Planet think we are just at the beginning of the new era, and we are excited to see how space and agriculture can continue to drive advancements in farm productivity, profitability, and sustainability. And with this, I want to thank you for your attention. And in case you are interested in learning more about Planet or how to get access to Planet imagery, you just come and visit us in our virtual booth of this conference. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Eric. It was a great presentation again. Again, I would like to bring to attention of all the audience that Cropin, Planet, and other companies are our sponsors for this event. They have a separate booths in the exhibition area. If people have any specific doubts, if they want to inquire about the products and services that these companies provide, they can obviously go and visit their booths in the exhibition area. So moving on to the next speaker in line, we have Mr. Wabena Frimpong from Ignitia. He is the Regional Director for Africa there. He is going to explain us upon the decision support tools based on weather-based advisories for improved yield and product quality. Mr. Wabena, the stage is yours.
All right, thank you everyone, and thank Afshin for the introduction. I hope you can also see my screen.
Yes, we can see it.
All right, so my name is Kwabena Frempa, as Afshin said, and I will be presenting today on decision support tools based on weather-based advisory for improved yield and productivity. So I want to start my presentation by giving a quote from Ferdinand and his colleagues in their latest publications in the World Resource Institute. And it's to tackle food insecurity, invest in digital climate services for agriculture. So this really gets to mean that digital content, especially that of climate services, is really important in case the world has to help support improve yield and product quality in order to fight food security. So just to give you a background into what we are as Ignitia, we currently have our services, which is the weather forecast and advisories, in the hands of about 1.9 million customers who are using our services to adapt to climate change and also helping them improve their yields and also the product quality. So we're currently working in West Africa, and also we launched in Brazil in the year 2020. And thanks to our distribution partners, which are the MNOs and our agribusinesses, we then are able to get our services to our cherished customers. And we have gotten support from other institutions such as the Moonshot Factory, as well as the Institute of the Environment in Michigan. All right, so we believe in the theory of change of how do farmers or our customers use our services. So in the past, from other evaluations that have been done externally and internally, we get to see about 85% of our customers find our service to be affordable. And though we use SMS, we try as much as possible to go in the basic language that will be understandable by a farmer. And yes, we were happy to know that about 96% of these farmers then understand our forecast messages. And in terms of changing activities that they do on the field, we get to know about 94% uses our messages to then change whatever practices that they do on the field. So in all, there has been different increases in yield, but it has always ranged beyond 15% in the yield increases, considering key staple grains. And about 79% of farmers are willing to pay for our services. And we are really happy to know that we have some group of farmers in Ghana and Nigeria who are already paying for our services. So I want to now talk about what's the challenge. So what is really inhibiting yield increases and also product quality? And clearly, we get to know that climate change has really an adverse effect on the global food systems, and there's a clear need for adaptation. Other than that, then we don't think yield and product quality could be assured. So currently, because that globally there's acute food insecurity, and it's always on the increase. And from studies, we get to know that in 2019, there was about 750 million people globally who were food insecure. And with the presence of the COVID-19 pandemic, this figure is currently around 121 million. And it is anticipated that this figure will increase more than the 121 million due to the impacts climate changes happen on global food systems and crop productions. So smallholder farmers are increasingly facing a lot of challenges, and key among them is the cumulative climate impacts, where there's drought, there are also flooding, which is affecting farming activities, the heat waves, pest and disease, and also the wildfires. So that means that there is then a clear need that climate change adaptation is needed to be able to combat this reduction in the crop yields. So if we are not able to adapt to climate change, then there's a likelihood that about 5 to 30% reduction in 2020 by 2050 in the yields. And if yields decreases, what is going to happen is definitely supply is going to reduce, and that could cause an increase in food prices. And when that happens, there's a likelihood of about 50 million more people facing food insecurity. So we then want to talk about what adaptation strategies are really available that we can also use to help combat this climate. And key among them is that there are quite a lot, but in this particular presentation, I will just be showing number 6. But what is really key or relevant is that to facilitate these adaptation strategies, they should be mainstream in the wider national development process so that there will be more holistic and integrated national adaptation strategies. So the first one I want to talk about is like the current ecosystem maintenance. That is about identifying and enhancing water and land use, as well as early warning systems that is going to be flooding or this is happening, so that the population can then work around that to make sure that the current ecosystem is maintained. Likely, just like we are also facing in Ghana, where there has been a lot of illegal mining, we have to find a way of restoring this damaged ecosystem by promoting afforestation and reclamation programs. Also, in the same vein, like the example I was giving in Ghana, there is a need to find alternative livelihoods for people, for example, in illegal mining, where they could get additional income by implementing other income generation activities. There's also a very high need to also invest in research and also creating awareness of climate change for people to know that climate change is really real. And these are some of the strategies that we can put in place to combat it. And also, one another thing will be the agricultural diversification. That is transforming the traditional agriculture and dynamic commercial to rather come up with more products which are of higher standards. And the last one I want to talk about is the digital climate advisory services. And this is using SMS or mobile web application and other channels then to disseminate climate informed agricultural services. So for this presentation, I will spend more time on the point 6, which is the digital climate advisory services. And you get to know to be able to give such an advisory service, then there is a need for weather forecast, which is then needed to be able to support that. But largely what is found is that even if weather forecast is accessible to farmers, there is like a poor accuracy in the tropics. Yes, there are a lot of global models that work on giving weather forecast, but we clearly get to know that these models are really not optimized for the tropics. It's largely optimized for the temperate zones. So you get to know that they are not really able to predict well the conditions of weather parameters in the African context. So to be able to do that and do that well in the tropics, you need the right resolution, which should be really final. But we get to know currently in the global models, it's not as such. And you need to know more about how the physics in the tropics is. And getting more also into the data to be able to predict weather well is not just about the ground station data. So this is where Ignitia sees as a problem, and we then see what can we do to improve weather forecast then in the West African or in the tropic sub-region. And this is where we then come in with our forecast, which is now being modeled around remote sensing and machine learning to improve the accuracy. So currently our accuracy in the tropics is around 84% compared to the global models, which are predicting currently around 34%. So yes, the global models are very good. We still rely on them for low resolutions, but we still also get private data stations and also satellite data. So after we do all this collection, then we compute them in our algorithm, which then uses the machine learning to come up with an accurate weather forecast. Then we do the distribution to our subscribers. So as I earlier said, our subscribers are largely from the MNOs and also agribusinesses, and also we do have API integrations with other organizations. Then they will get the weather information and then they will then disseminate to farmers who will receive this daily forecast via SMS or the advisory as well. And this is what is then causing the impact with regards to the farmer side. So what we do is this is like a typical rain forecast that you can get from our ISCA, which is our rainfall 48-hour rainfall forecast. So we try as much as possible to make the information very brief. That, for example, today there's a chance of rain morning time, and tomorrow it's going to be dry. So with this information, then the farmer knows the rainfall situation. But we got to realize that just giving rainfall forecast to a farmer is not enough, because along the cropping calendar, there are a lot of farming activities which are also weather dependent. So what can we do then to improve upon that? So that's where we come up with that. The weather-related risks that are limiting productivity and mitigating these risks are then fundamental to then improve yield and product quality. So as you can see, currently in Sub-Saharan Africa, about 96% of the cultivated land are rain-fed. That means there are a lot of influence in case climate change is not favorable. And this definitely causes the variability in the yield, and largely it is then not getting the right yield. So you get to know it is important for a farmer to know the right time to sow, when do you do fertilizer application, and also even what is the right time in case you are drying, because we are going to depend on the sun. So it is very good that we then come up with messages then for farmers to be able to adapt to these climate changes. And these are what we are calling the weather-based advisories that is going to help to make a decision support for the farmers. So I will then talk about some of the weather-based advisories that we have currently come up with and we are disseminating to farmers to help them with the decision supports. Right. So the first one that we currently do is the planting window prediction. So because we have the weather forecast, what we do is we then forecast for this. For example, the next 6 months of rainfall. How is the precipitation going to be? What kind of millimeter rainfall are we getting? Then we now get closer to the next month. What could that be? So based on the rainfall amount that we are seeing within the forecast, then we are able to then tell farmers when is the ideal time to plant. I think these, I'm sure there are definitely guidance also on the platform where our Ministry of Food and Agri made mention that yields are going to be low because I think most of our farmers did not get the planting window right because the rain started early, but along the line, the rain stopped, which really affected the yield. So for us, it is very important that the farmer is able to know the right planting window. And this is what we do to support the farmer to do that. The next thing is on the cropping protocol alerts. So as I earlier said, there are some activities that we do on the farm which is weather dependent, like when you want to spray, when you want to do land preparation, even to apply fertilizer. We all know when you want to spray and it's so windy, you are not supposed to do the spraying. So what we have done is at what wind speed is it not good enough for a farmer to spray? And this algorithm has then been built in our system. So when you have your coordinates of your farmers loaded on our system, we are able to tell you maybe, for example, 30 of your farms have been triggered that there's going to be high winds. So on their weather calendar, they were supposed to do a spray, but because of the weather conditions, it's not really a good one for them to do the weather spray. So these are some of the advisories that we have formed based on the cropping calendar of different value chains that we are currently working with. So for a typical one, if we get to know that the cropping spray is not really spraying your farm, is not really a good one to do at a point in time. On the system, you have the opportunity then to send messages to your farmers who are working, or the trigger says that it is not really a good time for them. And on the right side, you get to know that there's an alert criteria, and you get to know that we are sending this alert because the temperature was though less than 30 degrees, maybe the humidity is this, and the wind speed was so high. That is why we are sending this. So it's just a click of a button on the send. Then farmers within this zone that we are getting that trigger will get to know that this is the situation. So they don't need to do the farming activity at that point in time because it's not going to be favorable. Another thing that we are currently doing, especially to support product quality, is we all know, for example, when we take maize, aflatoxin is a very big issue. So what we do is we have the weather parameters which promotes aflatoxins, and we have imputed this algorithm in our system. So when you have been able to load all the coordinates of your farm, we are able to show you on the map where there's high risk on your site to show that there could be influence of aflatoxin on that site. So what do you need to do? Or your site is not at risk, or your site is low risk, and those are the ones that you see in green. In the same vein, you get to know the historical effect of, say, aflatoxin on your sites based on what you have uploaded and what could be the impact in case you don't remediate or do something about the situation. So this really helps our customers to be able to know how best do they approach this so that they can reduce the influence of aflatoxin. And just as I've explained, we just have similar ones for fall armyworms and also for fumigation. The next thing I want to talk about is our impact. So what we do is we have internally making impact as well as getting external impact by other external evaluators as well. So the one that I could want to share about, we have some from Mali, Ghana, and also Nigeria. But among all this, what is critical or common that runs through all of them is they all report of yield increases from maize, rice, sorghum, millet, onion, and garlic as well. And what is also important is that due to the messages that we get both from the forecast and the advisories, farmers are changing some of the agricultural practices that they do on the field. So, as a sustainable base, we also are interested to find out farmers' willingness to pay. And so far, our evaluations show that farmers are willing to pay, large number of them. And that is not surprising that we do have current farmers who are then paying for our services. So, in the nutshell, this is the advisories that we have made, which is weather based, and using that to help farmers to make decisions on their farm level. Thank you very much. And if you want to know more about Ignition, we have placed a one pager in our and we also have and we will also be at the VIP session. We'll be really happy to talk to you more on that. Thank you very much.
Send me this. I'll update everything and confirm the constitution. And if in case you want to upgrade on one day after this.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bhavena. It was a very informative presentation. A lot of things were covered in your presentation. And I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of questions to ask regarding what would be the protocols and the processes while using the technologies that are given by you. So they can obviously come and visit your booths in the exhibition section and have further discussions with you. So without wasting another minute, another second, we will now move on to our next presenter, Ms. Ayla Raquel Ribeiro. She is from Alia Nano and she's the CEO there. She would be talking about in-orbit sensors training for agriculture. Ayla, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Afshin. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thank you, Afshin, and your wonderful team for this great event. Congratulations to you and all the speakers here. They are very good speakers. I would like to welcome everybody from Africa Agri Expo to join my presentation. We are committed with a global challenge for a sustainable development, incorporating Agenda 2030 at Alia's goals. We are taking bold and transformative measures to promote sustainable development in the next 9 years, promote impact on at least 15 of the 17 sustainable development. I will show now how can Alia can help Africa for developing your agriculture as a sustainable way and face climate changes. We are going to talk today about the global partnership for a sustainable mutual growth and in-orbit solutions using sensor training for agriculture. I am Ayla Raquel. I'm from Salvador, Bahia. Now I'm here in Switzerland, in Geneva, for a business trip, a European business trip. And my purpose is to give opportunity to many people with a high capacity to solve complex problems for solutions of our daily lives. Just as I designed technological centers, now I create Alia, a safe environment to combine academy and business. Our main goal is to have always the best engineers to give wonderful solutions for our challenges. Alia Nanosatellites Constellation Earth Observation is a pioneer private space company based in Salvador, Bahia, Brazil. I can tell you that Salvador is very similar for many countries there for Africa. And we have a very extensive country, and the climate of us is very similar from Africa. We are very concerned about big problems to solve, like environmental tragedies, fire of large proportions and crop break. The fire of large proportion could make many risks of all over Brazilian forests and agriculture. And that's why this is a very big concern about us. And the same of the crop break, because we could have crop failure due to the drought in agriculture just because of the change of the climate and our weather there in Brazil. Our vision in Alia nanosatellites to improve professionals to solve complex problems, exploring space technology for sustainable development, bringing solutions that matter to the citizens' daily lives. As this way, we are impacting on quality education, decent work, and economic growth, reduces of inequality, and we are improving industry innovation and infrastructure. For the quality education, both farm works and farmers need more access to quality information and training for increasingly intelligent decisions to develop their quality productions to a high level. It's increasingly difficult to find people interested in manual work on farms, and we are also want to decrease physical effort and replace it with a use of intelligence. So we will train many workers in various levels and bring academy to rural areas to change and help on this situation. We can improve the decent work and economic growth because we can improve farmers to make more science-based decisions. We can improve the rural works, work much more on intelligence than their arm strength. We will provide for the researchers virtual access so they can remain at their labs producing and participating at Alia's project. We are going to offer accessible data for as many as possible data processors for different areas as Ignitia like this. We are going to reduce inequalities because we will build a ground station and a calibration fields with simulation area at experimental farm there in Brazil at a poor region where the level of poverty is high. So we will demonstrate a model of farm that can be replicable for many size of agriculture fields. We are going to improve in the industry innovation and infrastructure because Alia is a pioneer space company there in Brazil, and we are going to improve this region that could never think about this kind of industry before or using of satellites for many solutions of the agriculture. We are opening the ways, creating a lot of opportunities for that data processors, space lawyers, a lot of multidisciplinary activities that can support space industry. We will boost many companies that create platform as Ignition to make life easier for the farmer and his works by providing our trusted and valuable data. As a female leader, I want to inspire many girls and women to recognize their own power to bring great solutions for many problems. This way, I'm improving the gender equality because Alia is a company that creates opportunities for equality and inclusion without discrimination, respecting international treaties, the Brazilian Federation, and our laws. We are going to impact on many environmental protections like the climate actions for the life below water, clean water sanitation, and life in land. As the same for the agriculture with no poverty, with zero hunger, with industry innovation and infrastructure and responsible consumption and production. For the climate action, in the changing climate, water stress on plants as well as rains in disorganized periods are the most worrying factors for the farmer. Therefore, we will produce monitoring parameters by optical sensors for integrated agriculture with and without irrigation in arid climates regions as Africa and as Brazil to serve as a model for micro to large farms. In the agriculture that we can export billions from Brazil and from Africa. I'm here in Geneva. I can see a lot of our products in the market. We can see a lot of similar culture in the market that we can see that our country is a very big producer of food as the same for Africa. So as this way, we are impacting on no poverty because we are giving very good models of productions of our food. And the same for the zero hungers because we are going to produce so much food that we can have a lot. So I'm going to explain about the in-orbit sensors of our calibration field simulation area and our ground station that we are going to have there in Brazil. For our nanosatellites constellation mission, we are going to use a 6U platform of a CubeSat, and we can monitoring because Alia have a space mission that will form a constellation of 2 artificial satellites, and every 2 years we're going to renew this constellation and put more numbers of satellites so we can give more alerts, and then we can have more number of satellites to give these alerts. But we are going to join more constellation of satellites in the initial activities of Alia. So in the first moment, we will have more than 26 satellites to monitoring with optical sensors and IoT. So we are going to produce hyperspectral data that it has an artificial intelligence chip to improve the data processing capabilities for a hyperspectral imagery. So it can detect anomaly and send alert. The mini camera produces a big numbers of spectrum band. It starts off the visible and it goes to near infrared. So it allows us to analyze composition of the Earth and develop software for applications such as flooding delineation, soil monitoring, change detection, water quality monitoring, vegetation monitoring, and many more. We are going to produce and provide valuable and reliable imagery data for smart solutions. So for that, we are going to have our calibration fields there in Brazil, in Tucano, Bahia, Brazil, that you can see it's very near from equator. And we have the similar climate of Africa in some places of Africa. Our ground station, our calibration fields with the ground station is gonna be at very near from 2 cities that it's very curious cities, because in Caldas do Jorro we can have like warm water with high temperature comes into the land, so we can really have a lot of a situation of aridity, of semi-arid around, but we have so much water into the land. This is the farm that we will that is our calibration fields. If you can see around, you're gonna see that we have a federal road crossing our farm, so it's a very good and accessible place. We have high power energy, electric energy here to provide the energy for the Alia nanosatellites, but it's most important for us because we are going to produce clean energy with our solar panels, and the exceed of this, it will go on grid at these lines that it's very near from our farm. Our experimental farm, the name of the farm is Paibiru. Paibiru farm will be powered by rich and detailed satellite data. Earth data originates from a highly distributed set of sensors, various capture equipment, and research sites. This is an efficient way to share, discover, access, and interpret complex ecological data with research, and also guaranteed the reliability of satellite data. Scientists are able to integrate and analyze data with less effort. It will be a rich and detailed database compared between terrestrial and orbital sensor. This will promote automated and manual data integration for many different projects. In our calibration field, we think like this. A sensor is an instrument that can change because of several factors associated with its exposure to the aggressive orbiting environment, suffering with extreme temperatures, changes in positions, and high. If the camera does not undergo frequently calibration, the image may not correspond exactly to what was captured when the project was photographed. Calibrating the camera in real situations on the ground while the area is being processing the sensors will remove this factor and can improve accuracy. Our experimental farm will be capable to simulate all that situation that can give example on how we can use the satellites for monitoring areas with few valuable research, delivering several solutions for its success. The calibration of sensors in orbit is essential for the reliable delivery of data generated by satellite and must have a high frequency, increasing the chance of reliable reliability, I'm sorry, and the greater accuracy in recognitions and alerts in similar situations. So we're going to have our simulation area. The simulation of polluted areas, wetlands with microorganisms, bacteria, oil, microplastics, situations of vegetation in different stages and health, as well as the simulation of communications between machines allows efficient and reliable alerts of environmental disaster, as well as in the production of food and the generation of clean energy. So this is an overview of our plan in our training sensors, because we are going to have the colors of the calibration that will provide for the spectrum, the right color of each color of the long spectrum that we will have of the hyperspectral camera. And we can have an integration between crop and a forest and the animals as the same place. And we are going to have our wetlands, and we are going to have our solar panel farm, and in the same place our ground station. We can have there different types of soil that we are going to have all the time being looking for this and creating parameters for recognition of the soil, of clayey soil, sandy soil, of the humidity of the soil, the fluid behavior in the soil, for the that we can offer to these parameters for any constellation that can use optical sensors, and they can use to recognize this kind of soil that we have there as our climate, as semi-arid climate. So we have these irrigation lines that can allow us to have this kind of simulation, because we will simulate soil with water and soil without water. So we can have these recognitions of the sensors. We are going to have the training of the IoT, because into our farm, we are going to produce 60,000 kilowatt hour per month. And then we can do the same with the wind energy, so we can produce a lot of a kilowatt hour per month, and we will have our thermal water that we are gonna receive to transform this as a clean energy. We're gonna have in a near time all our calibration fields and ground station operated by clean energy, and then with this clean energy, the exit of this, it will go to the on-grid electric power, and then this electric power will be distributed for the poor people around our farm. The integration of the crop, livestock, forest integration, it's crop, livestock, forest integration. It's a production strategy that has been growing in Brazil in recent years. It is the use of different production systems, agriculture, livestock, and forestry within the same area. It can be done in intercropping and succession, in rotation, or in rotation, succession or in rotation, so that there is a mutual benefit for all the activities. This form of integration system seeks to optimize land use, raising productivity levels in the same area, making better use of inputs, diversifying production, and they're generating more income and employment. All this is in an environmentally correct manner with low greenhouse gas emissions, or even with the mitigation of these gases. It will help us to have in the same system a lot of different things that we are gonna look all the times with our hyperspectral camera and produce a lot of parameters for agriculture, because all the system will be on the same place. There in Paiberu's farm, we are having these systems, these ecosystems that is in the same place. Like we can have the crop there, and we can have the forest at the same place. We can have the crop for different cultures in the same place. So all this can be a rotative way of using our land. So we can have in the same place like the corn, and then we can have the palm of cactaceae is a different palm for the feed of animals. So we can have at the same place different cultures, and we are doing this to combine all the systems with our raising and our sheep that we already have there in the farm. So we are going to have wetlands as well. So at the wetlands, we can really produce microorganisms like spirulina that we can have the same thing for the simulation areas, because here we are going to produce the parameters for many optical sensors, for many constellations, that they can recognize the same situation that we are simulating here, like the wet and dry soil that I said to you, the fish tank that we are going to have tanks in different levels in the water, so we can see if they are looking for the right positions of the fishes and the right species of the fishes. We have the tank of immersed objects, because when we have oil into the water, we can recognize this because we have these immersed objects or microplastic as the same. And we have tanks with microorganisms, so we can look at this with the satellites and compare the data and have the adjustments of the sensor to recognize the same thing whatever this go. So we will have a seawater treatment station. At this seawater treatment station is a very good place that we can simulate a lot of the behaviors of the flow behaviors. So we can have the fluid going up, going down. So we can at this time looking for how is the behavior of the fluids into soil and into the system that we are proposing as well to receive the water, the dirty water, and turn it to a clean water for the irrigation. So this is our seawater treatment station that we're gonna produce this dirty water to become clean water to go to the irrigations of the integrations of the crop and plantation and animals. At this monitoring, we are going to have a lot of indices of color, of physical parameters, chemical parameters. All this we are going to be simulating all the time and be comparing all the things that we are receiving from the satellites, and then we can compare and adjust the sensor just for that. Or we can produce parameters for the calibration of the other sensors in other constellation. This way, we are giving the satellite hyperspectral data with a reliable and evaluable way for low prices for data processors, institutes, academy, for Ignitia, things like this, and companies like that can have the platform that can have a huge amount of applications for the agriculture, like precision agriculture, classification and extensive of crops, crop management, yield forecast, pest tracking, crop health and growth data sets, drought monitoring, fertilizer application maps, irrigation planning and monitoring, field boundary management, and a huge amount of this list because our very big numbers of spectrum can offer a lot of lists of characterizations for the vegetation. Our ground station that will be in the same farm there in Tucano, Bahia, Brazil, and our second site that will be in Maranhão, Brazil, very near from Equator. On this site, we are gonna reach the orbits that we can have we can access the orbits of LEO and GEO orbit. We are gonna share these antennas with more companies of ground stations so we can have the data circulating all over the world, so we can have the data with every country in a very secure way, because we are concerned about the security of all this, because we are going to offer rocket tracking and telemetry, the satellites and constellation management, where we can train their sensors with our parameters of our climate there, the semi-arid climate, and then we can have the satellite receiving data whatever when because our clients sometimes needs more another place to have their data receiving, so we are doing this to make it easier for our clients. And our security concerns of Alia international activities protocols, we're going to have this ground station field calibrations with a very secure way, using private cloud, cyber security, blockchain security, legal agreements, just to guarantee that the data of our clients it's their own data. We are not alone. We are having a lot of countries with us, making a lot of things with us, make agreements, make participations on our company as advisors. As we are speaking in a lot of these countries, talking about our project that we are doing here in Brazil. So all these countries are our allies for many of our activities here in Alia. And we are not alone as the same there in Brazil, because we have a MOU with the DCTA, that's Department of Science of Technology of Aeronautic, that is giving us a lot of mentorship for the calibration fields. So we're going to have a lot of work together with the calibration fields and simulation area. We are open to proposals, we are open to investments, and then we can have the calibration fields and simulation area for producing parameters. We can have monitoring for 3 years constellation of 28 satellites. So investors and partners, we are here for this mission of Alia nanosatellites for agriculture and environmental protections, and we will have a pre-sale. So this is an opportunity to become a partner of Alia or an investor of Alia. So you can come to me to speak, and then we can arrange a very good meet to change informations, to have collaboration. I'm here open to all this, and I want to thank you all for being looking for our presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ayla. It was very elaborative, very relatable. Thank you so much. I am sure we will have a lot to discuss with you. You can always meet Ayla at the VIP, where she will have a separate area where you can do meetings with her. So moving on to our next presenter, we have in line Mr. Daniel Esarekai. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Esoco Limited. He would talk about ICT for agriculture, the increased digitization of rural economies in Africa. Please, Mr. Daniel, the stage is yours.
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be on this program. And thank you very much, Afshin, for having me on this program. I'm going to talk about how you can use ICT to digitize agricultural value chains. I'm trying to share my screen, so just 1 second. Okay, can everybody see the screen?
Not yet.
Okay, let me see. What is? Okay, seems to be some.
Okay, at the bottom there is a screen share button, third button at the bottom.
Yes, I have seen it. Seems to be not working very well.
Okay, so you need to click on that screen that is visible on the pop-up box. And then the share button will go blue.
It's not responding, so just give me 1 second. Let me see what is happening. Unfortunately, it's still not responding. Okay, but I can just go ahead. If it comes later on, I'll share the screen. So as Afshin said, my name is Dana Sariche. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Esoco. I'm going to talk about ICT for agriculture, how you use ICT to increase digitization of rural African economies. Now, so Africa's population is booming, it's increasing. I mean, by the end of the century, there's estimated that 40% of all people in the world will be African. Now, what that means is that currently 70% of Africa's population are engaged in agriculture, many of whom are smallholder farmers who are cultivating less than 2 hectares. These smallholder farmers, however, produce 80% of all the food that is consumed in Africa. Africa food market is currently now estimated at about $300 billion, and it's projected to hit $1 trillion by 2030. Demand for food is expected to double by 2050. At the same time, Africa food import bill currently ranges between 30 billion to 50 billion per annum. So there's a lot of challenges and a lot of opportunities in this sector. And so you're going to look at how you can use digitalization tools to support agriculture program development across the continent. Now, so What this means is that in just about 29 growing seasons, Africa's 33 million small farms must learn to feed about 1.3 billion more people while facing three major challenges. One is climate change and climate variability. I mean, people have talked about a lot about that, about how the climate is changing, how that's affecting food production. The second one is information gap, lack of adequate data across the value chain, that making it not attractive to financial institutions, the youth and investors to engage or invest in agriculture. And at the same time, also, there's lack of fair level data and insight to prevent and risk and improve production. And so we at ISOCO have kind of looked at the various ways of looking at how do you use ICT tools to improve digitization, make agriculture much more sustainable. Now, if you look at throughout history, I mean, the world has gone through about 4 main industrial revolutions. Africa has largely missed the first 3, and you cannot afford to make the current one. And for us to be able to take advantage of the current industrial revolution, digitization or digitized agriculture value chain or digitized rural economies is a very, very important thing for us to do. But then you know that informing people and tracking data in rural communities can be very, very difficult and expensive. So how then do you do it to make sure that at the same time you have a cost-effective way of addressing the issue of digitization? The good thing is that mobile phones now make it very, very possible to send and collect data and allow you to be able to view and transact very easily on a simple mobile channel, a simple SMS platform. And so we at SOCO have identified 4 main challenges within the agricultural value chain that allows us to be able to solve this major hurdle. These challenges are 1, supply chain disruptions, 2, knowledge asymmetry within agricultural value chains, 3, lack of visibility and traceability into supply chains, and then 4, lack of access to financial services. So for each of these major challenges within agricultural value chain, we have a solution based on ICT that has been developed to solve it. So if you look at supply chain disruptions, we have virtual market platform, which we call base and office, that allow farmers and traders to trade virtually on an online platform. We are able to provide information on market prices via mobile channels like SMS, IVR, or voice. And then in knowledge asymmetry, we are able to build a knowledge asymmetry extension services. So people can now, I mean, if you take traditional extension services, you may have people who have to visit every farmer or every field one at a time. Now, with digital technologies, you don't need to do that. All that you need to do is to be able to have a smartphone or any feature phone, and then you are good to go. And then how do you also improve visibility and traceability into various supply chain options? And here you allow people to be able to digitize their supply chains and make it much more accessible so you can sit at the comfort of your office and see what is happening within your value chain. Now, when you look at the SOCO virtual marketplace, a platform that allows buyers to post and make an offer. For instance, if you're a smallholder farmer who live in a rural community, you're able to post a simple, say, have 100 bags or 100 tons of soybean, and then anybody on our platform who is able to reach out to you and make an offer so the two of you can handle the business. I mean, it is very, very important, especially in times like this, like during COVID-19, where travel restrictions and human contact are minimized. And so we have a platform that allows farmers and traders, like aggregators, off-takers, to be able to transact the business on a simple technology platform. It solves a lot of issues that are out there. Now, you're looking at how do you break information asymmetry within agricultural value chain. We have developed a simple data platform that is able to deliver messages via SMS, voice, IVR to farmers. These messages include market prices. So we are able to give a farmer that if you want to sell your crop in this area, you can just know the price of this commodity in that market across the country. You do weather forecasts, so you're able to tell the farmer that, look, the weather is going to be look like this the next 3 days, so this is the best time for you to say apply your fertilizers or do your land preparation or do any other agricultural field operation. And then you also allow people to be able to do crop production protocols. So you really taking traditional extension into the digital space where you can be able to advise farmers on how they can actually do everything that they do through various channels like SMS, voice, IVR, and so forth. Now, what is becoming more important, how do you support people to digitize supply chain? I mean, I heard the gentleman from CropIn talking about video digitization that they have developed. I mean, these tools are very, very important when it comes to tracking field transactions. Like aggregator going to buy any commodity from the field, we are now able to just log in how much you are producing, how much is at the warehouse, and so people can now know, trace what is happening with the agricultural value chain. Off-takers can track data from the fair and easily and instantly using the so-called inside data digitization platform. Off-takers can choose delivery or pickup, add multiple products and quantity, confirm their GPS code, view data in real time using web analytic dashboards, and then also can create a alert system that informs people on the value chain through SMS channels. Now, how do you support people to also even to manage their inventory? So you have people who are selling inputs, who are selling various agricultural inputs to smaller farmers across the various areas. Now, this whole need to restock constantly. How do you allow them that today or the next week you're going to run out of stock? So if the digitalization tool that we have, we are able to now predict or take accurate inventory of their stock, and then you are now able to pre-order ahead of time. So at any point in time, the off-taker or the input dealer now has something that they can actually provide that services to smaller farmers. The other fourth thing that we have been able to do with data is also payments. How do you use various mobile channels, platforms to pay farmers? So currently in most African countries, farmers receive cash for whatever they do. There are a lot of issues that comes with cash movement. Sometimes people are attacked by armed robbers. Sometimes the money gets stolen. Sometimes unscrupulous people just run away with the money. Now, in digital platforms, you're now able to sit at the comfort of your office and say, if you want to pay 10,000 farmers, you just put in their mobile phone numbers, credit their mobile wallet, and then instantly all of them receive their money. Now, there's massive opportunity in that sector when it comes to digitizing payments for rural communities across the continent. Now, somebody will be able to ask whether this digitization and all this that actually work, does it really have an impact on the smaller level and also even at the macroeconomic level? So I've kind of categorized some of these digital solutions for agriculture into 5 main areas. 1 is advisory and information services. 2 is market linkages. 3 is financial access, and then supply chain management, and then macro agriculture intelligence data. I mean, if you look at the solutions that have been presented, they are looking at the micro agriculture intelligence solutions. Now, at the smallholder farmer level, you've seen higher yields being recorded by farmers. You've seen farmers becoming much more resilient to climate change, farmers getting higher income, many more women being included into the agricultural revolution. And then the young people are also now not being left out. They are all increasingly getting attracted to agriculture because of the issue of technology and the fact that ICT solutions are now available that allows them to be able to now have access to information, have access to data, have access to land, have access to resources that they can use. Now, the macro level impact, there's a study that was conducted by Dalbeck Advisors, and they found that these ICT solutions actually do lead to agricultural transformation across the whole country or across the whole region. It leads to inclusive growth, so everybody is not left behind. Marginalized people, women groups, young people are all being included into the digital economy. And at the same time, there's also sustainable food and food security can be assured once people adopt digital solutions for agriculture. Now, from a Soko's own experience, we have been running this kind of services for the past 12 years, and then you have been doing a lot of randomized control trials to see the impact of these digital solutions on people's livelihood. There were 2 major studies that I want to kind of highlight here in this talk. So one of the studies was conducted by CILA, which is a French-based research institution. And they found that of the farmers who have access to climate information, who have access to market information, who have access to essential digital advisory services, they are getting 10% income increases compared to other farmers who may not have access to that information. Now, a similar study too was conducted by New York University using the randomized control trial. And they found that there's a 9% increase in prices received by farmers who have been receiving or who have access to digital advisory services. There is also substantial indirect benefit on prices received by farmers who do not even receive price information. But even more important in this kind of studies is that the fact that there's a very significant indirect benefit to even to communities, nearby communities who are not even part of the program. What happens is that when any aggregator or any off-taker goes to any village or any community to buy from them, and this person in this community are now better informed, they have access to information, they're able to know what is happening, they tend to change the way they bargain with those farmers. So at the end, all those farmers who are not even recipients of the climate advisory or the information advisory services now become direct beneficiaries of this service. And even more important, that is a 200% rate of return on investment when you account for the service cost and the cost of providing the services to the farmers. There's another thing that we did in Malawi where we were providing just smaller farmers simple market price information on their mobile phones. And what we found is that one farmer found that the price of her granite was currently being offered or being sold at just 18 cents per kilo. Now, when this farmer received the price information from Isoko Low, when you go to the nearby market, just some few kilometers down the road, you're going to have an 500% increases. This farmer now organized his other colleague farmers. They had a truck. They went to the nearby market and sold their granite for 500% more than what they have received at the community level. And this is how the kind of income or impact that ICT services can actually have in people's livelihood, actual people life experiences are being impacted. You also do some kind of other social impact by asking farmers to tell us what their experience has been with using digital information or having access to various digital channels. And then most of these farmers said that, look, with now access to ICT services, we are able to farm better, we are able to get knowledge, we are able to sell our crops better, we are now better informed, SMS get us money. And then another group of farmers said that, look, even now, we don't have problems in our marriage. Everyone was like, oh, wow, how can that be possible? And then when he was probed, the person said, look, now because we have access to information, the information is transferred everybody along the value chain and the household knows that, then my husband doesn't never have to call out with me whenever I go to the market and sell my crops. And this is the level of impact that ICT and digitalization service can actually have in people's day-to-day life, in people's livelihood. So this is a bit about Isoko. You've been working in the agricultural value chain for the past 13 years. You've worked with more than 1.2 million farmers and 100 partners served. We also do a lot of work in social protection. We help governments to digitize various social protection programs. And this program has actually given 4.7 million rural folks digital inclusion that allows them to be able to receive several social protection benefits. And then we have been working in several countries across Africa. We maintain 3 offices now, one in Ghana, Kenya, and Tanzania. We have 60 employees based in Accra, and then you've been working in the agricultural value chain. So if you're interested in knowing more about Isoko, you can just visit our website, isoko.com or info@isoko.com, just to know more about what you do, and we are very ready to engage you. Sorry that the strike could not show, but I can also make it available to the organizer of this program, so those who are interested can have access to the details that are presented. Thank you very much for your attention.
Daniel, it was great. Unfortunately, your presentation did not work, but you can always upload it in the handouts section. Yeah. Thank you. So now moving on, we have the last presenter for this session, Mr. Henk Holstad. He is the advisor for the Smart Center Group. He would talk about the smart technologies that reduce the cost of wells and pumps. Mr. Henk, the stage is yours now.
Thank you. I'm a retired engineer, and I'm also the advisor for a group of smart centers, which are placed in several countries in Africa. And I'd like to give you some information on low-cost technologies, especially fit for small holders. So share my screen. Do you see my screen now, Asheen?
Not yet. Yeah, you can minimize this and open your presentation. Yeah.
Do you see it now?
Yes, we can see your presentation. You can make it full screen.
Thank you. So the smart centers are part of the Meta group in Wageningen in the Netherlands. I don't need to tell you about the situation in Africa. There's many small farmers, as the former presenter also explained, that have small plots of land. Often the water sources are far away. They have limited incomes. But having a well at the farm level is essential for development. And this is the same as developments in USA and Europe. All the farms, I come from a farm myself. We had a well and a hand pump in the farm 60 years ago. And later on, we had more money and we bought an engine pump, and later on a motorized irrigation pump, etc. So farm water, farm wells are key for development of any farmer. And this can be done with what we call a water ladder. You can start with a simple well, a hand-drilled well, a hand pump, and later on an engine pump or even solar pumps. And an example of a water ladder, what we call a water ladder in Nicaragua, is 20 years or 25 years ago, a training program trained local companies to produce rope pumps, and many organizations donated the pump to farm families with the condition that they made the well. And the impact of that farm well and the pump was that family incomes increased with an average of $225 a year. And what we see now, 20 years after, is that many families now buy an engine pump or an electric pump because their income increased drastically. And from the aid perspective, it was interesting because the donor investment in this whole program was about $7 million. But if you add up all the family incomes in the last 15 years, it's over $100 million. So it's a good return of investment. Now the challenge in Africa. So how can we reduce the cost of water on farms? So wells, pumps, storage, maybe even household water treatment. And one solution is innovation in technologies, or what we call smart techs, which is an abbreviation for simple, market-based, affordable, repairable technologies. And those are available in a range of technologies for wells, for pumps, for groundwater recharge, which is increasingly essential due to the climate change, and household water treatment. And a few examples. So this is, for instance, a manual drilling technology, rotary jetting or shippo drilling that can drill in relatively hard soils, not rock, but weathered rock and in clay layers up to 50 meters deep. And a typical cost of these wells is $500 to $1,200 per borehole. And the size of that borehole can be anything from 3, 4 to 5 inch. So fit for irrigation pumps also, smaller irrigation in general. Other drilling technologies is simpler, that can go to 25 meters deep. It's called the Masuzu drill, which is a combination of an auger and a baler. The advantage of this drilling technology is that after training, farmers can drill the well themselves, which will reduce, of course, the cost of a well. So we're doing this in several countries in East Africa. Then you have to lift the water. And one of the examples is a treadle pump, which is disseminated, for instance, by Kickstart in Kenya. It's a suction pump in general. So you can only pump from 7 meters deep. So it's fit for rivers, lakes, shallow wells. And there's several models. If you want to know more, you can look at the website of Kickstart in Kenya. Another pump, which is basically for domestic use, not so much for irrigation, is a so-called Amos pump. It can go up to 40 meters deep. It's a design made in Bolivia, and there's 70,000 of these pumps worldwide. But they have a very low cost, and the advantage of this pump is that it can pump up to tanks up on the roof, so you can have the luxury of water in your kitchen or for the shower, which of course is essential for, again, convenience for farm families and especially women and children. Another pump is a rope pump, which was improved in Nicaragua 25 years ago and now also disseminated in Africa. There is a total of over 100,000 of these pumps in these countries. It can pump from 35 meters deep. It can have pump capacities anything between half a cubic meter and 1.5 per hour, depending on the depth. And the cost is around $120. A newer development is solar pumps. There's a range of solar pumps for the bigger communal water systems like the Grundfos and Lorentz pumps. And with the smart centers, we are testing a range of smaller pumps that have heads, pumping heads from 5 to 35 meters, depending on the number of pumps that you combine. But we focus again on the lower end, so in the lower range of $120 to $500 for a pump and the panels. As mentioned, due to the climate change, it's increasingly important to charge the rainwater in the ground when it is raining. We all know that it's often too much or too little. So when there is a lot of rain, you can store part of that water in the ground. And this is a technology, it's called the tube recharge. Via a sand filter and a pipe, you can inject the water in the ground and increase your water level in your well. And that you can do directly with a direct recharge or indirectly via PVC pipe. Again, this is something that farmers can do themselves, and that's why it can be very low cost. The cost of materials for these systems are about $10 to $20. If wells are not possible, it's essential to store rainwater in the ground, and there is several options. You all know the ferrous cement tanks. These are two new options. One is called the MS underground tank, which is an X-shaped formed tank with plastered cement, or a brick wire cement tank using wires, no steel, but just wires. And the cost of these tanks differ depending on the size, but anything between $20 and $40 per cubic meter. So these and other technologies are disseminated via so-called smart centers, which are training centers. And local companies are trained both in technical aspects and business skills. Both are essential. And the impact of the smart centers in Africa, there is 9 centers now, is over 15,000 pumps, 4,000 wells, 40 companies. And the main important part is that after the training, activities go on because the companies make profit. So these are the places, the countries where the smart centers are located, mostly in East Africa and increasingly in West Africa. And if you'd like more information, please go to the websites, or you can mail me directly with my email. So these are the presentations. If there's any questions, please mail me and we can keep in contact.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Henk. That was very precise and short. Thank you so much for your presentation. Now, although we are running short of time, but there are a few questions from the audience that we would like to ask the speakers here. I think there are questions for Christian from Robin and also for Wabena from Indonesia. Again, I think these speakers are not here with us at the moment. But for Alia, there is a question from Dr. Eric Zillman. He wants to ask, when will the first satellites be launched? Do you have an answer to this question? Can you unmute yourself, please?
Okay, yeah, we are gonna launch next year. We are aiming to the next year, maybe in the second semester.
Okay, that's great. That's great. So, Dr. Eric, I think your question has been answered now. So, I think we don't have other speakers with us, so there is no point asking the questions. But I'm sure they would have replied to you in the Q&A section. They will answer your questions over there. Thank you so much, audience, for being patient with us, and we are really having a good time with such great presentators with us right now. So moving on, we will now move to our next interesting session, which is session 6. So we will end this session now. Thank you, Alia. Thank you, Mr. Heng. Thank you, Dr. Eric, for
Thank
being with
you.
us. Yeah, bye.
Thank you, Afshin.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.